Hey everybody, Pete from the GenWell Project, back for another connected conversation as part of our series to keep people connected during these challenging times of COVID-19. I'm excited about the conversation today with seniors expert, cognitive expert, Heather Palmer. Before we get going, just want to introduce you to the GenWell Project, the human connection movement that since 2016 has been sharing the message about the importance of human connection and, more importantly, inspiring people to get connected. When we launched this, the goal of the movement was to actually get people connected to others and build those supportive networks that actually help us through the challenges that we face in life. And now we're in the middle of a pandemic and we need each other more than ever. Connected Conversation is a series of conversations that we launched in order to keep people connected to ideas, tools, and organizations and people who can help us manage our way through these challenging times in the best way possible by connecting us with information and ideas that can really support us in building the resilience that we all benefit from. A huge thank you to all the volunteers who are a part of the GenWell Project and who help spread our message within their communities across this country and around the world. And certainly to our partner, JP Weiser, who has been supporting us in spreading this message across this country over the last year and helping us make the world a happier and healthier place by getting people connected virtually face to face. All right, so on with today's show. Really excited to have Heather Palmer, Amica's senior retirement living, cognitive well-being advisor. Let me give you a little bio of Heather before I bring her on. Dr. Heather Palmer joined Amica in 2014 as the Director of Memory Care, becoming the National Director of Cognitive Wellbeing in 2018, and currently acts as Amica's Cognitive Wellbeing Advisor. Heather focuses on applying the newest research to develop programs that support both normal brain aging and cognitive challenges. Heather has more than 35 years of scientific, I'm going to bring Heather in here as I keep reading through. Heather has more than 35 years of scientific and clinical experience in brain behavior relationships. She obtained her doctorate from the University of New South Wales, Australia, and carried out a postdoctoral fellowship in neurocognitive rehabilitation in Toronto's Rotman Research Institute, Baycrest. She spent 3 years as the director of research for the Alzheimer's Society of Canada after developing and implementing evidence-based research relating to cognitive rehabilitation. Heather now devotes her time to applying what is being learned through science to help all people improve the ways they think, feel, and function. She's been published in scientific journals and spoken internationally on the topics of cancer-related brain fog, dementia, cognitive rehabilitation, and seniors' brain health. Heather has been featured on television and radio and a leading expert in these fields. She's also been inducted to the Havergal College Hall of Distinction for her work supporting the aging population. And as a proud mother of three, she aspires to foster multi-generational understanding about how seniors can live their best lives. Dr. Heather Palmer, it's absolutely fabulous to have you on Connected Conversation today.
Thank you, Pete. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time. I think not only in reading your bio is it obviously clear that you're the expert that we should be talking to, but number two, I also just love the fact that you've connected it to your own kids and recognizing that, you know, as I always like to jokingly say, telling seniors that they're lonely and isolated doesn't really help seniors. What we really need to do is educate the rest of the population in the role that we can play in keeping our seniors happier and healthier as they age. I think it's awesome. And so share me a little bit what you say to your kids when you get that opportunity to sit down with them.
Well, they hear me talking about it all the time. And ever since I was little, I've had a passion for seniors, and I'm just thrilled to see that I'm seeing that with them. And I bring them into our residences from time to time. They've helped with some of our programs, and just watching how they interact is fantastic. And then the opportunity to debrief, to talk about what they saw, what they experienced, how they can make a difference. And then obviously encouraging them to share that information with friends. And I will tell you, my son is in grade 12 and he's doing a family studies course right now. And he had to put together a research project and a survey, and unsolicited by me, he chose dementia and looking at the impact of dementia on families. So without me even priming him, I'm happy to see that that's a direction that they seem to want to go in.
Yeah, maybe not priming them for the specific task, but I think you've been priming them for a long time, and I just think what you've done and what you do in sharing this message, I think, is so important, because I think it is about creating empathy and compassion for one another, and that's what Human Connection does. When we get a time to connect with each other and share message and share stories, it makes everything real, and it makes it more digestible because we understand the bigger picture.
And it provides an opportunity to interpret your own personal experience and weave that personal experience into your interactions with other people. So most people have grandparents, right? So being able to integrate how you react and treat and support your grandparents should be no different to that friendly, confused person who might be trying to cash out at the grocery store.
Yeah. Okay, so what we always do before we get started with every one of our connected conversations, Heather, is we check in on those that are always caring for others, because we think it's important, especially as we continue on through COVID-19, to make sure we're checking in on each other. So when we last chatted, it was April. We were early in the COVID-19 pandemic. I want to just ask again, how are you holding up during COVID-19 before we get to the conversation about our seniors?
Thank you for asking. I'm holding up great. I have been working towards figuring out all of the changes and still maintaining balance in my life. And as a result of those efforts, while things are certainly different, I think I figured it out. So I'm doing great. Thank you.
That's awesome. I do think that there was something we always, go through those seasonal transitions. And September, I'll say, even for myself, was like it normally is. It's kind of that reset. It's okay, back to school, back to work, full schedules, the whole, at times overwhelming shift. But it actually gave me an opportunity to start focusing on some of the fundamentals that I think I had lost over the summer. And I think, I hope for a lot of people that shift into the fall was helpful in finding their baseline and finding the things that would actually help them as they, continue on through this pandemic.
I'll just share one tip that really sort of helped me, and that was changing my mindset. So let's say at 12 o'clock in the middle of the day, I don't actually have a meeting and I'm getting a little bit tired of my work. Rather than trying to push through because it's work day and work hours, I would take advantage of that time and call a friend or email or reach out or go for a quick run or do something for myself. So for me, it was a mindset change of not thinking, since we're working from home, or at least I've been working from home, that it has to be set hours. As long as it's project based and I'm meeting all of everything that I want to do and need to do, I can move things around a lot throughout my day. So sometimes I am still doing meetings at 9 o'clock at night, but that's fine because I had a great FaceTime call with a friend halfway through the day.
I think that's great advice. And I saw a piece of research from Harvard that says the average person is now working 40% longer in their day. So having that opportunity to break it up and find those things that re-energize you throughout the course of the day, I think is really important. Before we get into some of the questions I have for you today, I just want to read a little bit of research and really validate why we're having this conversation today. And I pulled some stuff even this morning. Human beings are social creatures. Our connection to others enables us to survive and to thrive. And research has linked social isolation and loneliness to higher risks of a variety of physical and mental conditions, from high blood pressure, obesity, a weakened immune system, anxiety, cognitive decline, Alzheimer's disease, and even death. 26% of seniors in Canada live alone, which isn't far off the national average because it's 28% across all age groups. 40% of seniors claim to be lonely on a regular basis. And, I think multiple studies have shown that loneliness can affect heart health. And even a study out of research showed that, people post a coronary bypass are 2.6 times more likely to die within 30 years. That took me about 45 seconds to pull that type of information about the dramatic impact of social isolation for our seniors. And I think really the question for all of us is what took us so long to really recognize how devastating social isolation and loneliness was for our seniors. So maybe that's the first question I'll ask, Heather, is, how come until the pandemic, I don't know if we really had the heightened awareness about the importance of staying connected with our seniors. Why was that?
I think it's a great tendency to underestimate and undervalue all of the tiny little things that happen throughout a day that bring so much value to certain populations. So being able to go out and walk down the street just to collect your mail, or to go to the grocery store and have a chat with the person at the grocery store, to be able to see your friends, participate in group programs, when all of a sudden those are riskier activities. And of course, our seniors are a more vulnerable group with respect to COVID, and pulling that away, it has an impact on everything. It impacts their social engagement. It impacts the relationships, even if they're casual and informal, to their actual formal relationships with family members. And that also impacts their health, not just because that does impact health, but just the physical exercise of walking here, walking there, walking down the hall to visit with a friend or to drop a newspaper off. All of those extra little bits might not make a big difference in our lives, who are more active people, but all of the loss of all of that little pieces of exercise and social interactions has I would say, an exponentially large impact on our seniors.
Yeah, and I think that really leads to the bigger question of what are all the different types of things that lead to greater social isolation for our seniors? Mobility being one, but I'm sure you have a list of the different things that impact our seniors.
Well, I think for all of us, it's been a huge need to make changes and to be innovative in our thinking, and to embrace and use technology to compensate for where face-to-face interactions may have been. And all of those tend to be more problematic for seniors, like just a normal aging brain, the ability to take initiative and adapt to change. While seniors are, I believe, the most resilient population, it doesn't mean that it's easy for them to adapt to those changes, because it takes a lot of initiative and consistency and innovation. And as we age, the front part of our brain that really helps to support all of those functions starts to become a little bit more compromised. So it puts them in a category that adjusting to the changes is harder. And then if we add technology into the mix, maybe they were very comfortable and confident with the technology, with the support that they were receiving, but once the support can't come in and guide them through it, it might be much more difficult for them to just quickly, what seems easy to us, just have a FaceTime call, or let's just use Zoom. Just the process of clicking in and making sure the camera's on and the conversation can be overwhelming. So there's a tendency to not bother trying.
Yeah, I think that's a really good insight for us as to all the different complexities that people face as we get older. And now we have COVID-19, and our seniors have been challenged by another thing. Frankly, all of us have been challenged with this. And I have a really odd question, and one that I think is a challenge for us to actually answer one or the other. And I wrote it down as, when we spoke in April, we were just getting into what we called COVID-19. And I think there was some early indications that there was going to be some fires to put out in some of the seniors' residences, and just seniors in general facing the health challenges. And now we're deep into this, 8 months into this, and obviously the implications of the isolation and loneliness, whether it's from a lockdown at a senior's residence or whether it's, just people not being able to connect. And I've heard from so many people the inability to give their seniors a hug, whether it's a grandparent and a grandchild or a mom and a daughter, whatever the case may be. I almost want to ask you, Heather, what you think has been more damaging? And that sounds terrible, because anybody who's been impacted by death or been sick through COVID, that's obviously been a huge impact on their life and on their health. But we now have tens of thousands, if it's 26% of seniors who are saying that they battle with loneliness and isolation, and I think the number can be much higher on different types of studies. What impact has the long-term isolation and loneliness had, and what type of impact is it going to have as we move forward?
It's a fantastic question. It's almost impossible to answer from the perspective of we just don't know right now. Like, it's still to be determined. We're still in the thick of it, or in fact, moving back into the thick of it a second time around. And both situations break my heart. So if a family member has been impacted, diagnosed with COVID, and whether they've recovered or they're still experiencing symptoms or long-term symptoms, or they've passed away, that's a horrible situation to be in, for sure. The impact of loneliness and isolation, we know that there are health impacts for our seniors, and we are starting to see them across the board and across the country already. So I think the longer that COVID continues to go on, and the longer we are doing our best to keep people safe, the more likely we're going to see health outcomes as a direct result of the social isolation and loneliness, which means it's even more important that as individuals and citizens, we work really hard to make sure we find the solutions to keep our seniors engaged.
Yeah, and I know that whether it's at Amica or whether it's at any residence, everybody is doing all they can to maintain and lift spirits, but I think all of us have an opportunity to play a role in reaching out, whether it's through a phone call, whether it's to a neighbor, whether it's to, anybody on the street, even the simple hellos, as you talked about earlier, the things that we can all do that can truly change someone's day, and that we did take for granted. What the research shows, as I know in the general population, is it's not just those deep, loving relationships that keep us happy and healthy, but it is those casual collisions at the grocery store, in the coffee shop, with the postman. All those little collisions make a difference in our lives, and yet I don't think most of us knew that.
And I think openly talking about it and leaning on each other. So as friend groups or colleagues, work groups, whatever it is, having the open conversation, identifying who has parents who are at risk, so who has seniors who are experiencing some loneliness, and figure out how together you can support your friend who's supporting their loved ones. So a great example would be one of my friends has a few of my friends have parents who are in Collingwood, and they can't always be up in Collingwood. But when I go up to Collingwood, or whenever our other friends go up to Collingwood, we say, hey, would you like us to call your mom or your dad, or arrange to have a tea or a coffee? So there's that interaction and that initiative that we're taking to support each other and support their families.
That is, and this shouldn't seem like rocket science, but, again, we've built so many physical and emotional walls between ourselves over the last few decades that, to me, that suggestion is brilliant, where it's just, hey, if you know somebody who's got a senior somewhere else and you happen to be, traveling through that town, how about taking 5 minutes out of your day to say, hey, I was talking to Heather and she mentioned you guys were here, so we dropped by some groceries or flowers or whatever. Or frankly, hey, I brought you a coffee from the local coffee shop who I knew they had your favorite grind, but such a simple thing, but could have a dramatic impact on people.
Not only the person that you're going to visit, but also it can help with some caregiver burnout and some guilt. I mean, everybody would want to be there day in and day out supporting their loved ones if they could be, but the reality is we can't, not only because it's not safe to be in close proximity on a regular basis, or at all, depending on that distance, if they're not in your bubble, but also just life and work and the sandwich generation, your own children can impact your ability.
Yeah, you're constantly under pressure right now. So, right. We're 8 months into this, and I hope I'm not going to pull on too many heartstrings here. But what does isolation and loneliness look like 8 months into COVID-19? Whether it's somebody alone in a home, it could be an apartment, could be a condo, could be a residence, could be anywhere. But what have you seen, and really, what does it look like 8 months later for somebody?
Yeah, it's going to look different for absolutely everybody. But when we talk about the areas that we're most concerned about, it may look like some physical decline. People may not be eating as well, so there could be weight loss. There may be issues with hygiene, so they don't feel the need or the purpose to get themselves, looking well for that day because they're not going out. There certainly would be a variety of emotional impacts. So what happens when we start to lose our social interactions and feel like we don't have strong relationships, even though they are lurking in the background, but they're not being acted on. People can start to become a little bit more withdrawn, and they might actually isolate. So we might start to see patterns where the effort is being made. Can I call you? Can I come visit? Can we do this? But because they're in this state, almost like a state of depression, the initiative to say, yes, I would like that, because they just are feeling withdrawn and isolated. And that's a big concern. I think the seniors that we aren't hearing from, or people who used to be very happy and engaged and doing a lot, I think those are the ones that we just really need to be checking on to make sure that they haven't closed in upon themselves.
Yeah, it is different for everyone. But as I listen to you, Heather, there, I'm feeling emotional here, just hearing about the impact that this can be having. And Tim Young, who's tuning in, said, my mother's in a home, and although I bought her a tablet 5 years ago, she didn't use it until COVID created the quarantine. And there's probably a silver lining in all of what's going on here, is that it forced many of us to step up and recognize. GenWell has never been an anti-technology campaign. We've been about finding the balance and using technology for some of the beautiful things. And I think, as Tim pointed out there, that's a great way to supplement the human interactions that we will get back to soon enough.
And we have done the same, using technology, bringing it in our residences. When people live in a residence, and there are care teams who can help to support the use of the technology. But if your loved one is living at home, definitely don't make the assumption that because they have it or because they've used it in the past, that it's easy for them to use right now. So there might be a lot more guidance to get past that overwhelm of the technology aspect. We have one resident who used to have lunch every day with her loved one and wasn't able to as a result of COVID. So they sent a tablet in. We get it set up, and they have a FaceTime lunch. So the execution of being together and having lunch together is continued. It's just a slightly different medium given the conditions right now.
Yeah, I think it's again one of the greatest things about this is the fact that I can't imagine going through the Spanish flu when we weren't able to hug and connect and didn't have technology. Having technology, even to the extent that, it's a daily phone call, over lunch in that example, but being able to stay in contact with our loved one, it's really been a beautiful thing.
And I think you've touched on something there, Pete, about the human touch, right? Like that to me is a big devastating blow. For me personally, I hate seeing people from a distance and not being able to march right up and give them a long, warm bear hug. But I'm concerned about that with our seniors as well. As we get older, just verbal communication or face-to-face communication isn't enough. We need to have the opportunity for behavioral cues as well, like tilting the head and moving the arms and pointing to things and touching and guiding and directing and holding. And a lot of those can't happen as easily through a technology. So even though they might be able to see you, it's not the same feeling, and certainly we're not touching.
Yeah, I think, there's lots of research about the value of human touch, but even in asking consumers, we work with one of our in-kind partners is IMI International, a research firm, and all of the research is indicating that there is one single thing that people are missing, and that's other people. And I do love the line that the best medicine for people is people. And I think we're recognizing that as part of the campaign and as part of the pandemic, more so than ever before. And really building on that, I don't sense that people really, and I think even from a broad perspective, really understood the value of human connection before COVID-19. As I say, when I speak about the GenWell Project, our human connection movement was out there trying to spread the message, but most people actually couldn't stop from whether it was the busy work days or running the kids around to hear the message and take it into consideration. And, have you seen people, embracing the message? And then how do we keep this going after we're finished the pandemic? When we get to the other side of this and we can hug again and we get back into those busier, fast-paced days, how do we make sure that we don't settle back into some of the old ways where we forget about our seniors and we, come and visit them once a month instead of where we're thinking about them every day right now because they're top of mind? What do you think we need to do in order to keep that at the top of mind for people?
Right. Well, in terms of the beginning part of your comment, I think it's really important to acknowledge that we don't tend to miss things until we don't have them, right? Across the board. So human connection and interactions and engagement with people was something that was just happening very easily and quite naturally for most people on a regular basis. And now that it's taken away from us, that's why there's so much more awareness of the human connection movement and why it's so important. And so I think the outcome of that is I too am worried, that once things go back to whatever the new normal will be, that people won't be reminded, as they should, of some of these other innovative ways we've managed to. So I don't want to see everybody swing back. I'd rather suggest that people take time to debrief the experience of COVID, identify what worked for them, the changes that they made and what those changes are and which ones worked, and therefore make a decision, we're going to keep this going. So if FaceTime calls are working, they shouldn't replace face-to-face, but why not complement face-to-face interactions when they're allowed? If leaning on each other, I'm hopefully not going to stop when I go up to Collingwood and reaching out and say, hey, did you have anything you needed me to drop off on your friend? I don't think going back to normal means we stop doing those things. I think we need to be reminded of them on a regular basis. And the first step is to literally debrief and list down, what have you done since COVID, or how have you managed to get through COVID, and which of these things really should stay as part of our permanent new normal.
I think that's the beauty of this pause. And I think, a pause of a week or two, because I think when we first started into this, many of us thought, hey, this is because it happened around March break. It's like, wow, we get an extra week for March break. But now that we're 8 months in, I think many of us have really had to reconsider, and maybe not reconsider, but certainly think a little deeper of what are we doing here? What is life about? And what is, I hate to get, say things like the meaning of life, but the reality is looking at what we're doing in our day to day and saying, is this really what I'm looking for? And is this fulfilling me as a human being so that, when my days come to an end, I can say I lived a good life.
Yeah, and I think it's great to have those open conversations with your friends, and your colleagues and whoever else. How has COVID impacted you? Some it's going to be loneliness, some it's going to be physical, some it's going to be financial. They've lost their jobs. I mean, it has impacted everybody, but it's impacted us all in different ways. And I think we need to bring that out of people and encourage people to introspectively reflect on the impact it's had on them personally, and then share that with others so they hear. So you feel validated by the concerns that other people have, and maybe somebody else has a solution for it that you haven't thought of. So it's about the open communication, the debriefing, and then figuring out, this really worked, I'm going to keep doing this.
I think that's a real powerful, response. And frankly, it is what the GenWell Project message is all about, which is, when we talk to each other, first off, it helps us cope, and all this stuff, Heather. Number two, it helps us find solutions because we share, hey, that's interesting. I tried this one time. What about you? How about trying this? And it builds that resilience that will help us all get through. And I don't know if you saw the piece of research out of Massachusetts General a month ago that actually indicated that the single greatest thing we could all do to prevent depression in our lives is social connection with other people, because it takes us out of our own head, right, and actually puts it, on the table in front of us in the middle of a conversation. And again, I think it's, you think of it naturally to say, hey, I think sharing it is good. I think having conversations But again, this is why the GenWell Project exists, is because we believe that most people don't think about this as part of the solution. We do think about eating better. We think about sleeping, drinking water. We think about exercise, because those are all things that we were educated on. But maybe social connection is something we could all put a little more time into in our lives, and what kind of impact that might have in coping with some of the challenges.
And if I was thinking of it from a cooking or a baking formula, and ingredients, all the ingredients you just talked about, physical exercise, nutrition, et cetera, are important. But for me, one of the number one ingredients is that connections and the relationship. Because if it was 4 cups of flour and 2 cups of sugar, I'd be putting social connections as the 4 cups of flour.
That's powerful. Hearing that from you with the years of education and expertise that you lend to this topic just reinforces for me that, we're on the right track. And as I think we talked about the other day, in 1942, we launched the Canadian Food Guide to help people eat better for the short-term benefit of their health and the long-term health implications and the cost to the health system. In 1971, we launched Participaction in order to get people to think about exercising for the short-term implications to their health and the long-term implications to the health system. And I think now, most of the research, as you probably well know, whether it's Julianne Holt-Lundstad out of Brigham Young University or Laurie Santos or Dr. Robert Waldinger, a lot of the expertise around the science of human connection is only a couple decades old. And so we have not been educated on this. And so great to hear somebody with great expertise highlighting that, because I think that's what we need to have more of as we look out and share this with other people, young and old, about the importance of staying connected during COVID. But let's be clear that, we're about to face many other challenges coming out of COVID, and having that community around you is going to make a difference.
Well, and truthfully, we need organizations like GenWell, and we need people like you doing the work that you're doing, because, if you think about the Food Guide and Participaction, that's 80 and 50 years ago that those came out. We should not feel we have the luxury of time to take that long to push this movement and this understanding of the importance of relationships. We need to pick up the pace, and your organization and what you're doing is really helping to bring exposure to that and get people to recognize that such a significant impact or measure of health outcome and longevity is in fact relationships and connection. And that's easy. That's something we can all be doing.
Yeah, what I love about that, thank you for those words. That means a lot to us. It doesn't cost money. And I think, oftentimes we connect giving to a check or a financial donations. And yet right now, I truly believe one of the greatest gifts that we can give anybody is actually time and picking up a phone, or whether it's physical distancing and just shooting the breeze with them. And as simple as, how's the weather? What's going on? Can I get you anything? I think we have a huge opportunity to learn, the silver lining again from this terrible pandemic is, what can we do better as human beings to make the world a better place? And I think human connection is one. And I'd even say, as somebody who I've gone through ups and downs through this pandemic, it hasn't all been roses for sure. But I can tell you, even I've had to remind myself, and I was even in a CEO group last week, where at the end of a session focused on me and my challenges, basically the response was, Pete, you need to spend more time with connecting with people. And no different than eating and exercise, we still need the reminder, right?
Right.
It doesn't end once they tell you the first time. We've been told to exercise, as you say, and eat better for 80 and 50 years, but we still need those reminders, especially when we get into a funk and we just can't pull ourselves to get up off the couch.
Absolutely. And thinking back to when you spoke about time, that connections, it's just about time, but you can do the smallest little increments of time and have a significant impact on somebody else's life. So it doesn't always have to be a big rigmarole of visiting for an hour and doing this, even just picking up the phone and talking, or casual conversations, spending an extra 5 minutes when you're out and about and you see somebody from a distance. Hey, how are you doing? Is there anything I can do to help you? Just those 5-minute conversations make a big difference, especially for our seniors.
And so that's a great step into our really our final question, because I think, we like to leave every one of our conversations with an opportunity to help people, to give them tips, tools, ideas. What can people do? And maybe what you just said is the answer, Heather. Maybe it is taking the extra second and just thinking consciously about the impact that you can have by just saying hello, knocking on a door, waving at somebody. Does it always need to be I don't know, voice connection? Could it be like a physical? Is it even seeing somebody's face from a distance with a wave and a smile? What are the things that you would recommend people think about as we go through this in supporting our seniors, whether they're at a residence, whether they're living alone, an apartment building? What can we all do?
Yeah, I think I would break it down to 3 sort of steps. One is don't assume. So don't assume that people are fine. Don't assume you know how they're feeling. Don't assume they are coping well or even not coping well with COVID. Ask the questions. Don't make assumptions. Number 2, I would put is take the initiative, right? If you have the cognitive resources and the energy, then you be the one to take that initiative. And all of us should be taking initiative within what we're capable of doing. And then, and through the taking initiative, being creative, right? So as you said, just a quick smile, or even dropping a note off and putting it under somebody's door. I would love to see kids do drawings and just go door to door and drop them off at people's houses, or go into an apartment that we know is primarily seniors and just drop them, just thinking about you, hope you're doing okay, in a pretty little drawing. I think that tiny little effort would make a big difference to our seniors' lives. And then the third one is just try stuff. Take a gamble, try that. If it's working, keep doing it and spread the word. If it's not working, then come up with another creative idea. So it's don't assume, take initiative, and just try.
And Heather, I want to go one more deeper into this, and I want to ask you the question: why don't we do this? Why isn't this already second nature to us? What happened? Where'd we, and it is for some. So I don't want to broad blanket the entire population, because there's lots of people out there that are doing the little things, especially in times of crisis when we all rise to be, the best of the human species. But why are we afraid? Even I feel at times afraid to be that person who goes over and I don't want to disturb people. I don't want to, what's the barrier? What are we struggling with?
I think it's time. I think we're busy. I think sometimes it's creative solutioning, and people don't have time to sit down and figure out what's something small that I can do that could have a big impact, and now I'm going to do it. So it takes a little bit of planning and initiative. But I don't know why. Like I know as much as I love seniors, and I see one across the street and I wave and I smile, and sometimes I get a great response, sometimes I don't. But I also know sometimes my head's down and I'm preoccupied with my own life, my own work, my own thoughts. And maybe I'm just not seeing people as much as I would like to see them, and therefore I'm not acting on it. So I think it's just, that empathy and understanding, that we are all sort of in this together. We all have different challenges. Sometimes I'll need more support. Somebody else will need more support at a different point in time. And just always sort of moving around life with your head up and your eyes open, and you're intentionally looking to see, is there somebody who might be looking like they're having a difficult day, and can I impact that in any way?
I think it's a great comment, because as I said right off the top, I think even, as caregivers, we have bad days as well. And so Not every day is our head up, and not as every day are we excited about making a difference. Although I think we all recognize the power of helping others, not only to help them, but the impact that it has on us personally. So, okay. As you know, I think we end off every conversation with, what are you going to do, Heather Palmer, to celebrate, the opportunity and to celebrate human connection when COVID-19 is over, when we have the vaccine, when we have the treatments, when we have all of it. What are you going to do to celebrate, you think?
It's a simple 3-letter word for me: hug.
Yeah.
Simply hug. I'm going to go out there and hug absolutely everybody who's prepared to let me hug them. And those who actually know me, I'll hug them for that uncomfortable, long period of time, just to help to de-stress everything we've all just gone through.
Yeah, the GenWell Project is working on a concept just around the idea of Human Connection Day, where we all give ourselves permission to give long hugs to others, the people we love, the people we miss. And I think tied in with that, and a friend I was chatting with a little earlier said, a vaccine won't save us, human connection will. And I think it's a really powerful thought, because human connection, whether it's virtual or through physical distancing, is what is getting us through these challenging times, because we know that we're not in this alone. Because if we were doing it all alone, I think, as we can see through our conversation, that it wouldn't be a good time. But together we'll get through it. And more importantly, we'll value the connections and friendships and families that we have when we get to the other side. So let's just suggest that maybe it's exciting times ahead, and certainly a greater appreciation for friends like you and for the people that we love to share our time with. And
watch out if you see me coming, because I'm probably zooming in for a hug. Whoever you are, whether you know me or not.
Well, I'm looking forward to that hug, because I think we're all looking forward to that hug. So again, Heather, one last thing. Where can people get a hold of you? Whether it's at Amica, maybe they're interested in knowing a little bit more about Amica or some of the work you do as an advisor. Where can people find out more about Dr. Heather Palmer?
Absolutely. There's lots of great resources on the Amica website. So www.amica.ca. There's lots of great recordings and articles. We're constantly producing material that's very topical and current to help to support people along whatever their COVID journey is.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for the time today. And most importantly, thank you for doing what you do to help take good care of our seniors and keep them happy and healthy as best as possible during these challenging times. I know that I appreciate it, and I know that everybody who has a loved one appreciates it, but maybe just even sharing the information for what we can all do allows us all to take some responsibility and some action in making all of our seniors feel a little happier and healthier as we go through this. So thanks, Heather.
Thank you. Thanks, Pete, for all you do.
Okay. Ciao for now, my friend.
Bye-bye.